In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Adobe Spark, the free graphic design app from Adobe, the makers of Photoshop. And while Adobe Spark won't replace a fully featured graphic design program like Photoshop, it's great for doing simple things like social media images, announcement slides, or even a full set of graphics for an upcoming sermon series. Whether you're new to design, you're more comfortable using templates, or you just want to do something quickly and easily, Adobe Spark is a great tool to have in your toolbox. To begin, head on over to spark.adobe.com, click on Start Now for free, register for a free account, and sign in. Once you sign in, you'll be brought to your Adobe Spark dashboard, and this is where all of your projects will live. As you can see, I've got 3 images started. We're going to take a look at them, and then we're going to build them together. Let's start with this pancake breakfast ad in the middle. This is an image you might post to Facebook or Instagram to let people know that you're hosting a pancake breakfast raising funds for the youth summer mission trip. The great part about this image is I put it together in about 90 seconds using one of the built-in templates on Adobe Spark. So let's see how I did it. We'll go back to the dashboard by clicking on the logo in the top left. When we're back at the dashboard and we want to create a new project, we'll click the plus button in the top. You'll notice that you can use Adobe Spark to put together a simple web page or a video project, but today we're going to be focusing on the post feature. Here you can choose to start from scratch or choose one of their templates found below. The templates are organized into categories, and unfortunately there is no category for church, but that's okay because every detail of every template is editable. So find something that looks right, that's similar to what you're wanting to build, or the thing that gives you that vibe, what you're looking for and what you want people to experience when they see the image. I think you can probably see the template I use for the pancake breakfast. It's this image here for a charity garage sale. So let's select this as our template to begin. So the first thing we want to do is select this main text right here, charity garage sale. We'll click on it, and then we'll hit edit, and then we'll put in pancake breakfast. And click done. We're already partway there. Now let's click on this big flag. This is where I wrote support our youth. Down below are the details. So proceeds benefit the rescued shelter animals. We're going to change that by clicking on it and hit edit to proceeds benefit the youth summer mission trip. Down below, you can edit the address and put in the address for your church. You can also edit the day, the date, and the times. Let's go ahead and jump in here. And at the very least, because it's a pancake breakfast, let's say it's going to run from 9 a.m. to noon. All right, so now let's edit the imagery. We'll click on this background image and hit replace. That brings up some options in the right-hand column for where to find new images. If you don't have an image already in mind or an image on your hard drive that you'd like to use, click on Find Photos. Let's type in pancakes. Here is a collection of royalty-free images that you're allowed to use for free as part of Adobe Spark. And this is a really important detail to remember when you're putting together images for use online with your ministry. You want to use images that you have permission to use, either permission that you got directly from the photographer or permission that's included in the image license. There are plenty of places to get images online, but Google Images is not a great place because it does not filter by license type. Instead, you're going to want to look for royalty-free websites like unsplash.com or pexels.com, P-E-X-E-L-S.com. So let's see here. These are some images that Adobe has loaded in for us. Let's see if anything looks good. Here's the image I used before. I like this. These are probably better looking pancakes than you'll get at the youth pancake breakfast, but we're trying to get people out. We want to show them the tasty version of pancakes. So we've got the pancakes in the back. And as you can see here, the right-hand column has turned into a set of filters. You might be familiar with filters from an application like Instagram. These are ways to color your photo or change the way it looks. And each filter has a couple different options. So you can click on the filter multiple times to see different versions of that filter. I like this Fremont filter, and I've clicked it a couple times to get it really nice and bright. Because the colors down low are kind of dark, I want to balance it out with a bright image. Now, the next problem we have is that the pancakes are hidden behind this white box, but that's okay. We'll click on the text, and that white box is actually a shape connected to the text. So if we wanted to remove or change that shape, again, we would click on the text, and then we would click on shape. There's lots of different shapes we can throw behind it. We can have a circle, we can have a hexagon, we can have a diamond, we can have a button feature, we've got some wreaths, all these kinds of things, quote marks. These are different design elements that you can play around with, but we're going to go back to the square around it. What we want to do, though, is make it see-through a little bit. So we're going to click on opacity. We're going to bring the opacity down to about 33. There now. The text is still readable. It stands out from the pancakes, but you can kind of see the pancakes through the text. Maybe it's getting your mouth watering. Another issue I see is that this image is kind of heavily balanced on the left. We've got a lot of chocolate chips and pancakes and text on this side with this flag. So let's bring the flag over to the right side. Click on it and drag it. And then you might see this little button down here. This allows you to rotate it. So we're just going to rotate it the other direction. And there we go. That is the image for your pancake breakfast. When you're ready to share the image or to download it, you're going to click the share button at the top. And here is the option to download the image to your hard drive. You can then email it to yourself to post to Instagram from your cell phone, or you can post it directly to Facebook from a web browser. Let's return to the dashboard by clicking on the logo in the top left corner. Okay, so we have done our pancake breakfast announcement. Now let's move on to this post, Instagram post Psalm 19:1. A common technique you'll see from churches on social media these days is creating quote images like this one. You'll take a verse from Scripture or maybe a quote from your sermon or something you've read, combine it with a compelling image, and then share it on Facebook or Instagram. The idea is to create what's known as a thumb stopper. You want someone who's mindlessly scrolling through their feed to stop and look at your image and receive a message of hope. So here, I found a really great image of the Northern Lights on another website, and it reminded me of this verse from the Psalms. Heaven is declaring God's glory. The sky is proclaiming God's handiwork. So I put them together and I created this image. And instead of using a template for this one, we're going to build it from scratch. So let's do that together. Once again, we'll click the New Project button at the top, click Post, and this time we're going to start from scratch. The first thing it'll ask you for is the text that you want on the image. Now, I already have the scripture verse saved on my clipboard, so I'm going to paste it in. Then at the bottom, we're going to choose the style of image we want to create. Depending on what you select, it's going to choose the right aspect ratio and size based on where you want to share it. We're going to leave it at Instagram because I want a nice big square image that I can share in lots of places. So we're going to leave Instagram highlighted and hit continue. Even if you choose to start from scratch, Adobe is going to make a few selections for you to get you started. But just like with a template, all of the options are editable. And if you want some more inspiration, down here in the right-hand column are some more starting points. So if there's something there that looks like what you're imagining, you can use that as your starting point and edit from there. But I really want to edit everything myself, so I'm going to go back to the original design filter. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is change up the background image. Adobe has loaded in this red texture. We're going to click on the image. We're going to hit Replace. We still have our pancake search from last time, so let's hit the back button. And this time, I'm going to upload a photo from my hard drive. Like I said, this was an image that I found on another website that has royalty-free images that you can use. Sometimes what you're going to do is you're going to pick a verse of Scripture and then look for a picture. In this case, I was looking for a picture that was really compelling, and then it reminded me of a Scripture verse. So you can work from either direction. I really like the look of the original image, so we're not going to add any filters here in the right-hand column, but we are going to change up the placement of the image. Let's grab the text real fast and drag it off to the side so we can see what we're doing. We'll select the image again, and I'm going to hit the Adjust button. Here you can adjust the scale or the rotation of the image. If you wanted to turn it, you could do that. That's maybe making you a little seasick. Of course, we don't want to do that with this image. But here we're going to scale it up a little bit. and then I'm going to drag the image, center the person. The reason I did this is I like the look of the person without a grounding. I like the look of them looking out over the lake with the northern lights. For some reason, it makes it more awe-inspiring to me than to see the shoreline that they're standing on. It also makes me feel a little bit like I'm in that person's shoes. So again, I hit the adjust button, I scaled the image up, and then I dragged it into position. Now it's time to edit the text. So let's bring the text back, and you'll notice this dashed yellow line. This is going to help you align elements in your image. This means it's aligned to the center, both horizontally and vertically. If you have more than one element, you can align things to each other. That'll make it really easy to line things up later, which you'll see. So let's go ahead and edit our text. It's got a shape behind it, but again, in the image I was making, it didn't have any shapes. So we're going to scroll to the top, and the very top left option is to remove the shape. So now we just have the text. Let's drag our text up, get it up in the sky, make sure it's centered. We're going to hit the Done button. Now we're going to click on Font because we want to change up the type. You've got lots of type available here in many different styles. I use the True North type in the image. Then you can grab the corners of the text box to play with the size and the layout. As you can see, as I'm adjusting it, it's changing size. Words are jumping to different lines. I'm looking for a nice big text block. We're going to center it again, hit Done. Some other options you have are the spacing button, which changes the spacing of the text, or the alignment button, which changes whether you want the words left, right, centered, or justified to the edges. We're going to leave it centered. We'll increase the spacing. But I think you remember from the template that I used multiple styles and colors of text. Now you can't do that within the same text box, but what you can do is create multiple text boxes and lay them out. So let's click on our text box, hit Edit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave the text that I want on the first line. I'm going to copy the rest, copy it to my clipboard, and hit Delete. Then we're going to hit Done. So now we have our first line. We're going to get it all in the same line. Heaven is declaring. Make sure it's centered. Now we're going to hit this Add button. Click on Text. Now we're going to paste in that text that we copied before. We're going to copy and delete everything from the third line on. We're going to hit Done. Now we've got our second line. Make sure that's centered, bring that up. Add another text box. Paste it in. And again, we're going to remove everything we want for just the fourth line. Hit Done. Adjust the size and the layout a little bit. We'll fine-tune these things later. And finally, we'll put in our last text box. Now we're going to work on the styling. You'll remember that we had this font in white for the first and the third lines, but then we had sort of a script font with a yellow color for the second and fourth lines. So let's click on the second line, and we're going to go over here to Font, and we're going to scroll up and find the font that I used for that line, which was called Wanderlust Shine. We're going to hit Done, go to Color. We're going to find a nice sort of rich yellow that's going to stand out against the background. Now we're going to do the same thing for the fourth line. Click on the text, hit Font, scroll up, and find Wanderlust Shine. Hit Done, grab the color, and use this suggested color. It's now a suggested color because I've used it previously in the image. It's a way to find the color that you want. Another cool feature that you can do is click on this Edit button, and then you can edit the color itself. Or if you want to grab a color from the image, click on this eyedropper, mouse over to the color that you want, and click on it. So I could choose a color from the sky, make it blue, but then of course it's not going to stand out against the sky. So let's make sure it's the same color as up here. Hit Save. Now we're going to go ahead and make this bigger, roughly the same size as the line above it. I'm doing that by clicking the corner and dragging outward. Now we're going to line them up together. We're going to center them. As you can see, there's dotted lines here and here, lining it up with other elements in the image, but we want it all centered. So we're going to center it, bring it up close to that first line. We're going to bring this second line down a little bit. This fourth line, make sure it's centered. Bring it up a little bit. All right. So now all we have left to add is the scripture reference. We're going to hit Add and Text. It's going to style it like our previous text box, so we actually have one more edit to make. We're going to make it small. We're going to center it, but we need to return it to that other font, True North, and return it to white. We're going to make it a little bit smaller and make sure it's centered. Now this image is pretty much ready to go, but one more thing you might want to do is add the name or web address of your church to the image. This is a way that in case the image gets separated from your account, if someone downloads it and shares it again, they'll know where it came from, and it'll also let people who are looking just at the image and maybe not the name of the account that it's posting from, they'll let them know that it came from you. So let's hit the Add button. Click Text one more time. Put in the name of your church. And hit Done. We'll scale it down, bring it over into the bottom left corner. As I noted before, you can add shapes around and behind text. But another option down at the bottom are social media icons. Let's click on the Facebook logo. This now encourages people who see this image to not only know the name of our church, but to let them know that we have a Facebook page and that they should look for us. Just like before, you can change up the font if you want. You can change up the colors. And here, you can actually edit both colors. So we're going to leave that white. We're going to grab this one, grab the eyedropper tool, select the yellow so that everything looks the same, and hit Done. Now this image is definitely ready to share. When I'm done again, I can hit Share and Download right here, or I can return to the dashboard. And once you return to the dashboard, you have another option to share, or you can hover over the image, click these three dots, and select Download. Now let's take a look at how you can use Adobe Spark to take one image and transform it into multiple different formats that you might use, like with the sermon series. Let's say you're preaching on the 5 practices of fruitful congregations, and this next week is radical hospitality. You have a really friendly church, and whenever someone shows up, they get a warm handshake and a free cup of coffee. But you want your church to know that radical hospitality is about more than just coffee. Let's take a look at the image I put together. And so here's the graphic I came up with for my sermon on radical hospitality more than just coffee. I'm not going to show you how I put this image together because it's the same steps as our previous 2 projects. You can either start with a template or you can start from scratch. But once you have the image you like, you're going to need it in multiple different formats. This is the layout known as the slide format. If you have a regular projector in your sanctuary, this is the size and the shape that you're going to want to use to project this image on your screen. But of course, you also need to share it on social media and use it in other formats as well. Adobe Spark makes this really simple. Now, the most important step, though, is to remember to duplicate your project before you make edits. So let's return to the dashboard by clicking on the logo in the top left corner. When we hover over the image, we'll click on the 3 dots and hit Duplicate. So we already have the slide layout. We're going to change this one to an Instagram layout. So hover over the 3 dots, hit Rename. We're going to change Slide to IG for Instagram, just so I remember which project is which. Now let's hit the Edit button. Once you've reached the editing screen, we're going to click on Layout in the upper menu. In the right-hand column, we're going to click Resize. We're going to scroll up, and we're going to select Instagram. They automatically resize the image for you and relay out all of the elements. Now, you may want to tweak some of the things. So, for example, the coffee cup looks kind of small to me, so I'm going to hit Adjust. I'm going to scale it up just a little bit. I'm going to bring it down to kind of center the coffee cup. Maybe I'll make this line of text a little bit bigger. Make sure it's centered again. Maybe make this one a touch bigger. Make sure it's centered. And so there you go. In about 3 clicks, we've turned our slide into an Instagram post ready to go. Let's save it by returning to the dashboard. Okay, so we have our slide and we have an image we can share on Instagram and Facebook. But let's say we also want to promote the sermon using the header on our Facebook page. So we'll click the 3 dots and hit duplicate. On the new project, we'll hit the 3 dots and hit rename and change IG to FB header. Click OK. And then hover over the image and hit edit. Once again, we'll click Layout in the menu bar across the top. Then in the right-hand column, we'll click Resize. We'll scroll past the social post portion into the social profile portion and hit Page Cover. Now, this is a very widescreen image, so we're going to need to do a little bit of editing. So we'll click on the background image. We'll hit Adjust. We'll scale it down. Make sure it's kind of centered. Maybe drag it down just a little bit. That looks good. Now this text up top works because it has a shape behind it. This text at the bottom doesn't stand out quite as much as I want it to. So let's click on it, hit Text in the menu bar across the top, and click on Color. Let's see if changing it to white makes it stand out. It helps a little bit, but it still kind of blends in here on the rim of the coffee cup. Let's return it to the original color. We'll hit Done. Now we'll go and explore some shapes. Now you can add a ribbon from edge to edge. You can add a box just around the text. You can add circles, all these things, but I like this one here. It's a shadow. We'll hit Done. And just like with all shapes, we can edit the colors. So we're starting with light blue text and a dark blue shadow. It certainly makes it readable, but the text doesn't really stand out against the light blue saucer like it did when it was up against the brown table. So let's try another option. Let's try a brighter option. White text with a light blue shadow. I like that a lot. The text really stands out against the saucer, and the shadow adds just enough darkness to make this E readable, and people are going to know that it's about coffee. Now I'm happy with this image, and of course to save it and return to the dashboard, we would click on the logo in the top left corner. But let's look through the other layout and resize options we have. So click on Layout and Resize. We'll scroll back to the top. So of course we've got all of the standard social post sizes: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and some other options. Then we've got our profile images, the cover page for your church's Facebook page, an event cover photo, which is different size. Maybe you take that pancake breakfast image we made earlier and you adapt it for the cover image for a Facebook event inviting people to the pancake breakfast. There are options for Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Etsy, Eventbrite. And then here are some standard sizes that you might use. Say you're creating a poster, and here are our slide sizes. This is our standard slide. We've got our widescreen, maybe you use plasma TVs or a widescreen projection system, and just some other standard sizes. Most of the ones that you will use are up here in the social post and social profile sections. And so there you have it. We just used Adobe Spark to quickly and easily put together an ad for a pancake breakfast fundraiser, an image sharing scripture on social media, and a full set of graphics for an upcoming sermon. You can do this too, and I can't wait to see what you make with Adobe Spark.